guys, so I am back with another process video. I'm going to be using my summer kit today. So I went through my kit and pulled out a bunch of different embellishments and papers that I thought would match with my 3 photos here. And I'm going to be using a sketch today as part of a collaboration with Caitlin and Clary. I'll have her video linked down below, so make sure to go check that out. And I will have the link, I will have the sketch somewhere throughout the process video and over on Instagram if you want to play along with us. So I had this idea that I want to use this summer loving aspects of my kit because these are the photos that I thought I would use when I made this kit, because they were at this kind of diner place. You can't really, not diner place, like this roller skate waiter kind of thing. I don't know, you can't really see that there, but this is where I thought I would use them, with like the milkshake and the burger, which matches this. So you got the burger, this piece I think would work. You got the stand here. So I pulled all those out and a bunch of papers, and I am planning to use, I originally thought I was going to use this background here, but it might be a bit too much. I don't know, we'll see. So I might just flip over to a white piece of paper, but I guess we'll find out once I start the process here in a bit. So don't forget to check out Caitlin's video, and I will put you now on fast forward to see what I come up with. Okay, so I thought I would start with trying to use this background because I really love it and I might not get another chance to use it. So I'm going to ink my photos with the black tie Ranger pigment ink just to kind of help them stand out a bit from everything else. And then yikes, okay. My words are escaping me. So I had this, that striped paper is the back of the emoji love paper with the speech bubbles. And I thought that all those colors worked really well. So I'm going to use that chunk of paper. But I wanted to map my photos on a white piece of cardstock that also has that notebook texture to it. I've been doing that in almost all of my layouts recently. I just really love the look of it. Just it helps the photos stand out a bit more. And the contrast of the black ink with the white cardstock helps the photo stand out even more. And that's not really visible on camera here, but up close it does make a difference. So here I'm going to then layer a few more strips of those papers. So there was a bit left of the yellow stripe and a bit left of the pink stripe from that emoji love paper. So I'm just going to layer them behind the same colors, and that just adds again a bit more texture since it adds more layers, and also just continues the colors a bit more so I can layer stuff on top of them. So the sketch that I'm using called for 3 photos, square photos, at the sort of top of the page with a couple layers behind them, and then an embellishment cluster to the right on top and on the bottom, and then an embellishment cluster at the bottom of the page. So I'm going to kind of modify that just because my photos are a lot bigger than what the sketch intended. My photos are printed at about 4x4. And I don't know how to print them smaller on my printer that I have at home, so I just went with it. And I wanted to bring in some green because the green and the lettuce in the burger is pretty dominant. So I'm going to use that paper from Dear Lizzie Happy Place 6x6 paper pad and layer that on both the top and bottom. And I also had a very small scrap piece of paper to go under that. I just slipped under the notebook thingy there. And I'm going to also back my pictures on some piece of foam. Again, just to help them stand out a bit more. So as I mentioned, I'll have the sketch over on Instagram, and I think you'll see it in a bit while I'm working on my layout because it's I had it printed so I could look at it while I filmed. So I don't know why I didn't edit out this foam adhering process, but I'm going to add foam on all of my pictures. Oh, there, I did edit it out. Okay. Yeah, and then I'm trying to find a couple more layers because I have a lot of solid colors and I wanted to add a bit more pattern. At least that's what I thought at the time being, but I'm not going to end up adding anything more than what I have on the page here, paper-wise. So I thought this coral paper would look really nice. So I'm going to cut 2 strips from that I thought I would be able to add as a layer, but it was a bit too much. So I'm gonna add one there at the top, and then I'm also gonna add one at the bottom, but it was just way too much. I thought it would look, oh, so there's the sketch. So I don't think you gotta go look at it there, but anyway. And then I'm going to add one of these strips at the bottom. It was a bit too, it's way too much. It's way too busy. I thought that that coral color would match the coral that peeks out from behind the photos in that striped paper. But it was a bit too much. So here I'm going through my die cuts because I have the paper elements, like the paper design, pretty much done now, so I'm ready to start embellishing. I kept those layers, those strips on there because I really wanted to use that paper, but it doesn't work. So I'm going through my die cuts, and I'm just kind of choosing some that might work on this page. I'm not going to use any of them, but yeah. So I have some that are mustardy color that kind of match that paper there, and I have some reds and some pinks as well. So yeah, I also wanted to condense all these pattern papers a bit because the cluster is getting way too big, especially for the sketch. But because I had a lot of small pieces of paper, I couldn't do that before I glued them down. So here, to tone down the background paper, see, I did end up sticking with the background paper. I'm going to add some gesso, and it's white gesso, but because I'm adding a very thin layer, it doesn't tone it down all that much. And because the paper is really textured, once I add, it's a Carta Bella paper, so that they tend to be really heavy. Really good quality papers. You can see the texture through the gesso, and I really like that look. Maybe I should have put another coat just so you could see the paint a bit better, but I didn't, so there goes that. So while the gesso dries, I just use my palette knife to apply that gesso. I'm going to glue down my photos and a couple of the papers to each other. I think I just glued down the white cardstock to the stripe paper for the time being, and that little green piece as well. And I'm trimming, now is when I'm going to trim down the papers because I wanted the cluster, I didn't want the paper cluster to take up the whole of the space of the page. I wanted it to kind of look like it's not falling off. I wanted to cut off at the right hand of the page, but I didn't want it to go all the way to the left. I don't know if that makes sense, but you'll see what I mean when I actually do it. So here I'm going to bring in my distressing. So I think I'm using a I am using a banding coral here first, and then I'm going to I'm just using the packaging technique, which means just adding the pigment on the piece of packaging and adding some water and just smushing it down onto the page. It's a really easy technique, and it always turns out nice. And then then I'm going to add the picked raspberry, and I really like how the picked raspberry mixes with the abandoned coral. I need to use that combination more often. It's not a combination I would expect to work, but I really like how it looks. And then here I'm going to add the mustard seed. No, actually I think I used fossilized amber on this one, the yellow color. All of these are inks, by the way, distress inks. And that's about it. And then I'm going to bring in my layers and try to condense them a bit without gluing anything down yet. But because I do have a lot of small pieces, it's hard to condense everything. So until I glue them down yet, I won't be able to see the exact design. So here's where I decided that these strips are not going to work here. I am going to end up using most of them on the page, but not in this way. So yeah. Then I'm gluing everything down. So here I made a fatal mistake. I had stopped the recording and restarted again and didn't check the orientation of my camera, so I'm sorry that the last part of this video is kind of sideways. So I did a Missy Wooden trick. She's been doing this a lot lately, and I really like it, so I thought I'd try it. I messily cut the edge of the paper and then filled it in with a strip of pattern paper. And that pattern paper that I use at the bottom there is actually the back side of that red coral paper. So then here I'm going to do my embellishing. So again, I'm really sorry about this angle. This is really bad. So I glued everything down, of course, and then I decided that I want to add a doily. So I cut my doily in half just so it's easier for me to stick it in behind. and I'm just gonna have it fall off the page as well, and then I'm gonna do some embellishing. So I really wanted to use that wood veneer piece that says yum on here. So yeah, I used that sticker that says summer up at the top, and according to the sketch, that's where the title was meant to be. So I thought like a big word would be appropriate to stick up there. And then I'm going to use that wood veneer piece that says yum over to the side. And that part, that cluster wasn't called for on the sketch, but because I wasn't going to do a cluster at the bottom of the page, I felt like I needed another cluster on here. And then I'm going to take this drink cup, I don't know what to call it, and it was a clear sticker that's from the Amy Tangerine Better Together collection, and I just backed it on white cardstock before I glued it down over there next to my cluster. Then I'm going to add a wood veneer heart to the top cluster to bring in that wood veneer elsewhere, and also I'm going to add one to the bottom cluster over to in a bit. And I punched out a couple of these hearts here with the other strip of that coral paper, and I'm going to use one in the coral color at the top and one with the backside at the top to bring in the backside somewhere else rather than just at the bottom of the page. And then I'm going to add a coral one to the bottom next to that burger. So I think that's about it. I'm also going to do some journaling right under that green pattern paper next to the burger. I'm not sure if I do that on camera or not, but anyway. And I'm also going to add some of these puffy sticker hearts from the Pink Fresh collection, the Pink Fresh sticker sheet thing. Yeah, so I will have pictures over on Instagram if you're interested. Don't forget to go check out Caitlin's video. I think she'll be doing a 4th of July themed layout. I'm not entirely sure. I kind of wanted to do that too, since it's the 4th of July today when you'll be seeing this, but I couldn't find any 4th of July pictures, so I just decided to do another layout. It is while I was in the States, so that has kind of a whatever relation. So thank you guys so much for watching. Happy Independence Day to any Americans watching, and I will see you tomorrow.